Hey everyone, in the last video we talked about what REST APIs are, and in this video we will learn how to do or how to use how to do REST frameworks in Django using the Django REST framework library. Okay, so we will talk about installation, serializers, and view sets. So to install Django REST framework, you install it via pip and then add it to your installed apps. So let's do that. I will pip install Django REST framework, but I already have it. So now let's go to our settings, and then let's go to installed apps, line 36 in this example, and let's add REST_framework. Okay, so that should enable us to use REST framework classes, Django DRF classes in our applications. As previously discussed, DRF uses what's called serializers. Okay, so serializers allow for the conversion of model instances to Python data types, and by doing this conversion, Django is now able to render out these model instances into other content types. So let's create serializers for our models in our application. So to do that, what we're going to do is we are going to create a serializer or a serializers file in our lists application. So that's touch lists slash serializers.py. Okay, now let's open up lists serializers.py. It is going to be empty. Let's add something in it. From REST framework import serializers, and then we need a reference to our models, obviously. So from .models import our tag model and our item model. 2 line breaks, and then let's create our first serializer. Tag serializer. So this should extend serializers, or rather implement serializers, but model serializers, and this would have an inner meta class, meta, and then this will say what our model is. In this case, it's tag, and what fields we want it to show. Okay, by doing this string dunder all dunder string, this says that I want it to use all the fields of tag. Okay, now let's create a serializer for our item. So class item serializers dot, let's use another base class, serializer. Okay, this time, instead of just having fields all, I'll just choose what fields I want to show. So this is very similar to how you would do it with models. You will use fields, okay, serializer fields in this case, to represent those model fields. First one, but the name of your serializer fields variables should be the same as your the variable name in your model file. So text, right? So if we look at our models, okay, on the right side of your screen, you will see that it's called text. So text is equal to serializers.car field. However, you don't necessarily need to add a max length and min length. Well, because we used a text field in our model. If, however, you used a car field in your model, you may want to add a maximum here. And then let's do an allow blank argument to true. So if we want to use Django REST framework to create items, blank text is fine, because in our model field as well we have a default of empty string. Okay, and then I want to be able to have, so when I request my item, a list of items, I want to be able to see all the tags there. Okay, I can't call it tags. Why? Because tags, if you look at your model, is a string property. Okay, what you want is a tag set. Okay, because that is the set of all tags that are related to our item. But if I gave tag a related name attribute here, we would be able to use that. So if I said tagged item, okay, or tag item, here I could say tagged item. But because I did not do that, let's take the tag set. Okay, let's take the tag set, and because this is a related field, I could just nest another serializer in here. So let's just tag serializer, and then say many is equal to true. What this means is that there are many instances that could go here. And then we still are required to add that meta class, meta inner class, okay, where we specify the model, this item, and all fields. This is a required thing. So instead of using all, I will have a list of all fields that I will add. In this case, it's text and tag set. Now at this point, because we're not hooked up to anything, we do not actually have any way to see this. Okay, so we will talk about that later. Now let's go back to our slide. So now this is done. Okay, that's all you need to do with the serializer. Okay, so what we did was we had two superclasses. We had a mother serializer and a serializer base class. The mother serializer is a shortcut way to create a serializer because all you really need is your inner meta class. Okay, but with serializer you do a lot more stuff, but you have granular control over your fields and its corresponding type and all the validations. Okay, we've done that. Now when working with serializer fields in REST framework, you actually have arguments that you could add there. So if I add an argument of read only, I'm saying that that field is only included when I'm retrieving the resource. Write only means that it will only show up, or it will only be required if I'm writing. And then obviously if required, that means for any application that is required is by default true. Okay, now this reminds me, let's go back to our application. Tag sets are should generally be read only. so that it is easier for you to create applications based on uh, to create instances of your item. Because if this was not read only, for every time that you create an item, you have to create a tag. Obviously, that would be very, very frustrating. Okay, so let's keep that read only is equal to true. Serializer fields are similarly named as the Django model fields rather. Okay, so fields include booleans, car fields, slug fields for URLs, and then you have your number fields like your number related fields like integer and decimal field, which take a min value and max value keyword argument. You also have date value, date field, date time field, and choice field. So if, for example, you have a car field that has or that uses the choice as argument, you should use a choice field serializer field. Okay, so it takes in a similar tuple as the choices argument in your models. Okay, now we're talking about just basic data, but what about foreign fields? I've already showed you one way to do it, which is to nest. Okay, so that's the easiest way to do it. And like I said, the many argument is used to specify if there is more than one linked instance, and it would output a JSON string that looks like this in the bottom. Okay. Now, there are other fields possible. To do these relations instead of just nesting. These include very simple ones that I include here: string related fields and primary key related fields. Okay. So if I used a string related field, it would just return a list, an array of the return value of the str model method. Okay, if I use primary key related field, it would give me a list of all the primary keys of those related items. Okay, but what we will use is a nested serializer for ease. Okay, and like I said, when adding related models, use the model underscore set syntax if there is no related name, and remember to add the fields attribute in the meta class, because that is required. The values are either a list of the fields or the string underscore dunder or double underscore all double underscore. Okay, you can see there's a little space here. Anyway, next, so that we will be able to use our serializers in our application, we need to have view sets, okay, which are a special type of class-based views that includes all the possible actions, and DRF basically does a lot of the heavy lifting for us for basic workflows. Okay, and then URLs are added via a router object provided again by REST framework. Okay, so let's do this. Obviously, I just want to, okay, I will close our models file. Let's go to views. And what we'll do is we shall create a view set. So let's create a view set by importing REST framework again. From REST framework import view sets. Okay, and I'll just add before this function-based view class item view set implements or extends viewsets dot model viewset, and then that would need just two parameters or two attributes. So we have query set. So what query set will this viewset use? In this case, we want all the item objects. So you can actually give it a subset if you needed to. And then serializer class. Serializer class, item serializer. This will error out because we still haven't imported our serializers. So from here, from .serializers, import item serializer. Let's add tag serializer because it may need it. Okay. Now that we have that, we can add it to our urls.py. Okay. Let's go to our urls.py. So we will be doing this one. Okay. So we will be importing the routers object, and then next we will be importing our viewset, registering it, and then adding it to our URLs pattern. Okay, and then again we'll be just using include to do everything else. So let's do that. From REST framework, import routers, and then from our views, let's import item viewset. Okay, because I want this to like just not overflow, I'll just add this. Okay, I want this to be a bit cleaner, like that. Okay, now I will have to create a router. Or no, let's import include. Forgot. There we go. Router. Just go to routers dot default router. Default router dot register. Here is where we're gonna add the base URL for this viewset. So this is basically the name of our resource. So in this case, it's items. And then let's use our viewset. Right, item viewset. Now that we've got that set up, we can go in and add a URL here. Okay, we can include something. Obviously, it has to be empty because it will use items. And then let's just include router.urls. Okay. There we go. So as you saw quickly, there was a quick reset or restart of my server, which means that my application should be running. So what does it mean when it runs? Okay, you can see that it runs by going to the URL that you specified. So in this case, we specified the items URL, and this is what it would look like. Okay, so Django REST Frameworks provides this UI because we're doing it in the browser. And as you can see, we have these fields are text and tag set field. But in our last task with tags attached to it, it has everything. Okay, this is ID, it's tag name, tagged item. But notice how our items don't have an ID because we didn't specify it as a field. Okay, now this is what it looks like when you are using the browser. Let's close that. So going back to the slides, like I said here, it is still possible to create custom URLs. You just have to use the asView method. And this is possible because view sets are basically CBVs. Okay? And with that, we are done creating our APIs. So this can work with about anything. Okay? So let's do this. I will show you how to do it even on the command line. So let's say curl. I'll just look up what you need for curl to work. Okay, for curl, I need localhost 8000 / items. I think I need something else. Oh, doesn't want it. Let's use curl http 127.0.0.1 port 8000. Anyway, in the next video, I'll just show you how to create a curl request for this. That would be faster for the both of us.